Hey everybody, this is Heather. Um, I'm recording from my desktop because my phone only has a limited amount of time, and the desktop is just like my laptop, so I'm using it now. Um, so basically, I'm gonna talk about the new episode of Steven Universe Back to the Barn that came on yesterday, and I missed it because I was working, but I was able to watch it online. So basically to get down to the nitty gritty of it, in the episode When It Rains, we got to hear about the cluster that apparently is in the center of the earth. And basically, the episode starts off with Peridot explaining to the Crystal Gems what the cluster was and how it was what it would do to the world if it took form. And so they had to devise a plan to get to the center of the earth. So they decided for a drill. So when they did the drill, they were going to do it, and so they needed the parts and the equipment. So back to the barn, they basically go back to where Space Race took place. I rhymed. Space Race took place. Anyway, so they basically went back there, and Pearl was trying to explain to Peridot how to the design and how it was going to work because Peridot's not used to Earth tools. So she was trying to explain to Peridot that Peridot doesn't have her modern technology tools, so she has to learn not to how to use Earth tools. But Peridot wasn't taking it. Peridot, after Pearl explained about all the components and stuff like that, Peridot tried to shoo her away, kind of like how you would do someone who's completely useless, just shoo them away after that. And there was Peridot still thought that Pearl was a servant because she said that she tried to shoo her away, and Pearl was like, "I'm not going anywhere." And Steve was like, "Yeah, she has to help with the gem ship." And Peridot's like, "She's like, no, 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 no. See, you're confused. Pearls can't do this." And he was like, "Why not?" Because pearls aren't made for this. Pearls are meant to stand around, look nice, and hold your things. And she looked at Pearl and was like, "Right?" Pearl was like, she was like, "I'm not gonna let this get to me. So let's just try and work together." And she was like, and then she was like, "Me and you work together." And she was like laughing, and she's like, "Did you teach her to do these things?" Like she Peridot was looking at Steven like he was the master of Pearl. She's like, "Did you teach her how to do these things?" And she was like, and he was like, "What?" Like he was trying to figure out what Peridot was talking about. And Peridot was like she's a pearl. There are hundreds of her. There are hundreds like her flaunting around a home world. And they're basically just supposed to serve whoever owns them. And the part that kind of made me mad was when Peridot walked over to Pearl, and she was like, and she's a fancy one at that. Like, is that not the outfit Pearls from Homeworld wear? Is that why Peridot thought she was fancy because her outfit was different? And basically, it was she was like Pearl was like she was like Peridot was like, "Who do you belong to?" And Pearl was like, "Nobody. I'm my own person. I've already established this." But Peridot wasn't taking it like that, so she was like, "Then what are you here for?" And then that part right there, when Pearl went silent, I got kind of angry at Peridot. I mean, I love Small Peridot, hashtag Small Peridot. She's adorable, but I kind of felt bad for Pearl. That was hitting below the belt. That comment that she made, because we know Pearl came to Earth to serve Rose, but then she ended up serving her in a different way. Instead of being a maid, she served her as a knight, a protector, help lead the army of the rebellion or whatever. So, um, it kind of sounds racist, like gem racism. The hierarchy on Gem World is probably really messed up. Like pearls are probably at the lowest thing of the hierarchy, and then Peridot's probably maybe two or three tiers higher than Pearl. Maybe she's like 2 or 3 tiers higher up in the hierarchy than Pearl's. And Jasper is basically like a bodyguard or an escort. Apparently Peridot fears Jasper, and so does Lapis. So that makes me think Jasper is way higher up than Peridot. Jasper is probably 4 or 5 tiers higher up than Peridot, somewhere close to where where the Diamond Authority is. Diamond Authority's up here. Jasper's probably like right here. Peridot's like right here, and Pearl's like way down there. And so it was kind of racism, and basically like they couldn't get along. So Steven was like, "Let's do something to settle this," and then we're like, what are we going to do? And he was like, giant robots. Because who cares for giant women when you have giant robots? Giant women are in the past. Sardonyx is the last giant woman we saw. And apparently Steven has moved on from giant women, and now he's into giant robots. Although I still think he loves giant women because he's Steven. But, so Pearl and Peridot basically built these robots, and then what the part that caught me is when Pearl slid out the barn and did her little, ballet thing that she always does. The part that really cracked me up was when she stood up and she was like, her hair, she just flips her hair like that, and she had like this stance to her, like I am awesome. She had this stance. She was just like, I was like, is that suggesting something? Because if you look to where Steven and Amethyst was before Peridot emerged, you'll see, look at Garnet's face. She's the only one who has like this smile or smirk. I don't know if it's really subtle. Like you have to really pay attention. You have to be a real PearlNet fan to actually get what I'm saying, because there have been a lot of hints, 3 and 4 in the show, where, well, there was at one point Cry for Help. Apparently PearlNet was real. They came after, at the end of Cry for Help, it sank. And then now it's resurfaced again after this episode, because to me it has, I never thought it sank. It's just that everybody was like, oh no, the PearlNet ship is dead, blah. I said the same thing for Ruby and Sapphire. But, I'll talk more about that after I explain the episode. So basically, they do all these little competitions with their robots. What's funny is when Peridot stepped out of the barn with her robot, she was really tiny. She was like, now, feel my ultimate power. Yeah, yeah. She was a really short robot. And Pearl's like up here. Peridot was like right here. She was like, hey. And Pearl's like, mine's taller. I win. She's like, I win. Mine is taller. And basically, they had a bunch of competitions, jumping, crushing rocks, painting, other stuff like that. And it turned out to be a tie, except for one point where a tree won because they did a speed test. They both crashed into a tree, so the tree got the point. This is hilarious. And Steven and them were sitting back watching it. And I think at the end, when it was turned out that the whole thing was a tie, I think Steven rigged it to where the cards actually kind of related to one or the other. Like, Steven held up one called Ballet. No one Peridot didn't even know what rain was, let alone ballet. And, like, ballet is Pearl's that's her strongest thing, is ballet. So, like, I felt like Steven rigged that part. And also, a lot of the ones, like, the crushing of the rocks, he knew Pearl, with her skinny-armed robot, could crush it. So it was fairly obvious that Peridot was going to get it. And he basically made it so that it tied up at the end. And then they would both have to work on the drill. But Peridot wasn't taking it. She felt herself superior to Pearl. So basically she challenged Pearl to a tiebreaker, which was a robot fight. And when Peridot was like, Pearl was like, there's no need to do this anymore. We're both equally smart. So let's just, they're like wasting time. Peridot's like, no. And she's like, you're just a Pearl. You're below me. No matter what. He's like, I'm still better than you no matter what I've seen today. And she's like, Pearl was like, have you ever seen a Pearl do this? And she kicked Peridot. And then Peridot was like, "Oh, it's a fight you want. We should have did this from the very beginning." And they were fighting. And Steven made me laugh. He's like, "Guys, stop! Giant robots shouldn't fight. Giant robots shouldn't fight." Shall I name off? Shall I name off the animes that have giant robots fighting? Gurren Lagann, Gundam, Evangelion, Transformers, which is not an anime, but still robots fighting. And some others I can't name, but it's all about the robots. Like Stevie was like, they shouldn't fight, and it's like fight, 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 because you know she's a wrestler, so she actually likes the violence. And the part that made me laugh was Peridot was like, "You're just an accessory, someone's shiny toy, someone's shining toy." And she was like, "You're just a pearl." And then Pearl got up on Peridot's face and was like, "Yes, I am just a pearl." She cocked her fist back and was like, "Pow!" Just punched in the face. And she was like, "I may be a pearl." And she jumped in there. She was like, "But I'm still gonna kick your butt." The way she said "butt" was hilarious. She was like, "Butt." And then she was coming down, and then it did that whole split screen where it had everybody. It had this Garnet Steven here, Peridot here, Pearl here, Amethyst was cheering down here. She was like, "Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo!" And then Pearl was like, got caught by Peridot, and Peridot was like, "Yeah." And Pearl was like, "Uh-oh." She's like, "Foul! Foul! 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 Foul!" She was just slamming her back and forth. I thought of Pokemon at that point, because I was like, Pearl versus Peridot. Peridot uses Slam. Pearl, it's super effective. Pearl has fainted. Pearl is unable to continue. I thought it was Pokemon, because when we saw Pearl, she was knocked out like a Pokemon. Like she had the swirls in her eyes. You know how Pokemon gets knocked down? It's just like, dang. That's how she was. And she was like, "Yeah." And Peridot was like, "Yes, I am the victor. Praise me. Praise me." But in all of her celebratory glory, she didn't actually notice that what Steven and them were doing. Like Steven and them, like Steven helped Pearl up, and he was like, "Are you okay, Pearl?" And she's like, "I'm fine." And the Amethyst came over and was like, "Yo," and she was like, "P, that was so awesome." And she's like, "You're hardcore." And she punched her, and then Pearl was like, "Oh." She's like, "Oh, really?" And the Garnet came over and was like, "Oh yeah." Okay, that part right there, if that wasn't proof enough, I don't know what to tell you, because that was proof. That was some serious proof. Because she came over and she touched her head like this. She was like, the way she said "oh yeah," kind of threw me off for a minute there. I was like, I had to do a double take. I was like, "Wait, what?" I was drinking some soda at the time, and when she said that, I was like, I spit it all over the place because it shocked me. Just I don't know. It just came out of nowhere. Like I knew there was gonna be some hidden little moments in there between the two, but that one just popped out at me at the most. So basically, at the end of the fight, Peridot's like, why are you like encouraging her? She's just a common pearl." And then Steven's like, she's like, "If what you say about," he's like, "if what you say about pearls is true, then Pearl's not common at all. She learned how to fight. She learned how to build things, even though she's thousands of years old. She learned how to build things, fight, take care of Steven, learn the earthly ways, everything like that." And he's like, "That's not common. That's amazing. Like, common pearls are meant to stand around and do what you say. Pearl is an exception. Due to Rose, she was able to become her own gem and not have to follow a code or follow orders and things like that. I mean, the only order she followed was Rose, and Rose didn't really command to, like, bring her a cup of tea or anything. It was really just, like, in order to control the rebellion in the war. And we know Pearl is thousands of years older than Peridot. I'd have to say Peridot's probably younger than Jasper, since Jasper fought in the wars and Peridot wasn't around during the wars. So Jasper, Pearl, Garnet, and I think Amethyst is older than Peridot too. So Peridot's probably the youngest gem we've seen. Lapis is older than her too, so in a way, it's actually weird, because I feel Pearl should be the one ordering Peridot around, being Pearl older. Like, Pearl is older than Peridot, so I feel like Pearl should be the one trying to, like, control Peridot. Not control her, but, like, you know, keep her from doing what she did with the whole robot fight. And basically, the most the Steven was that speech he gave was beast. Even though he doesn't know much about Homeworld and stuff like that, that was still in the Crystal Gems backgrounds. That was still pretty much beast of a speech. And after that, at the end, we actually got some heartwarming Pearl and Peridot acceptance. Peridot was like giving acknowledgement to Pearl because she was quite knowledgeable for a Pearl. Like she knew how to build things and stuff like that. And so Peridot decided that they would team up. And the part that was really cute is when Peridot had the drill upside down. Pearl took it. It was like she was on her knees, like you know how like a knight would do, and she held it up to Peridot, and she was like, "You're holding it upside down." Now the knee part where she was kneeling in front of Peridot, I feel like that's what happened when when Pearl was under Rose's care. That's what happened because basically we know Pearl was a knight to Rose. So yeah, um, I just thought to point that out. Now onto the part that I was saying earlier about how I was gonna what was I gonna talk about? I wanted to talk about I wanted to include in this that the Garnet thing about the cluster. In my last video, I said that I was hoping that Garnet was going to get like really angry and she was going to split apart and we were going to see Ruby and Sapphire again. But this time we were going to see at least Sapphire with a little more anger. But probably should be saddened. Should be more sad than angry, and Ruby would be the angry one. Angrier than she was at Keystone Motel because, hello, if Fusion, when they fused into Sardonyx, that was the main reason that caused Garnet to be in turmoil with herself. But this one right here is also fusion, but it's just like the fusion experiments. Like, in keeping it together, when they found the gem shards, we actually saw a transition between Garnet. We saw the inside of her head. Like, Ruby's side was like, this is what we get, you know, this is what the rebellion gets for betraying Homeworld and stuff like that. And Sapphire is like, sad. She's like, we didn't know, and they just kept going back and forth until Garnet snapped back in. And this cluster seems like a really big thing. Seeing how Garnet reacted to the little clusters, the little cluster. If this one is like really big, then that's terrible because Garnet freaked out with the little ones. Not just imagine once she gets a sight of the big ones. And we almost saw her split in front of that little cluster. But in front of a giant cluster, I don't think she'll stay together for very long before the feelings overtake her and she splits apart. I don't really know what else to say. Except these episodes are getting really good. I still wish that we got to hear more about Malachite, but apparently this cluster is more important because even though they're worried about Malachite, they can't go looking for Malachite because if the world explodes because of this gem cluster, then looking for Malachite would be pointless because everybody would be dead. So it's better that they stop this cluster, then look for Malachite. And so it's these future Steven Universe episodes is going to be quite emotional and dark. Like Steven's gotten darker come season 2. Ever since like Jailbreak and stuff like that, it's gotten a little dark now. And I'm really looking forward to it because like Steven Universe is my favorite show on Cartoon Network. I love it. I love all the characters. I love the plot and everything like that. So I really don't have any much more to say. That's pretty much all I have to say right now. Just stay tuned, and I'll be posting the new Steven Universe episode next week. So until then, this is Heather Jones. Later.